Loving Saram from Prasanthi Nilayam and welcome to the studios of Sri Sathya Sai Media Center. The centenary celebrations are on and Prasanthi is pulsating with so many mega and glorious events. You had the Atirudra Mahayagnam happening in February and now we are on the eve of a mass Upanayanam ceremony that is going to happen in June 2025 and we thought we should not miss this chance to talk about the glory and the mystery of this sacred thread that every child in India wears on their shoulders.
And absolutely, when you talk about the ceremony, I'm not too sure how many of our listeners are even aware of the ceremony because it's a very important ceremony rooted in Sanatan Dharma. And even in India, you can say that it's a ceremony that is not as prevalent as some other ceremonies. So why did Swami spend so much time and energy on these ceremonies? And is it really necessary and relevant for all of us to know about it?
I think the ceremony on one side, but what happens during Upanayanam is the chanting of the Gayatri Mantra. And we will be exploring why Gayatri Mantra, what is the significance of Gayatri, and how Gayatri Mantra chanting is so relevant to all ages at all times.
And if you look at all the messages that Swami gave during these Upanayanam ceremonies, I think right from the 60s, Bhagawan himself personally has been conducting these events. And something very, very powerful is there in these messages. I'm reminded of an event that happened in the 90s. So there was this boy who was serving Bhagawan. And he had this task of taking letters to Bhagawan given by devotees. So since he was Bhagawan's servitor, so whenever he took these letters from devotees to Bhagawan, before that he will have to take Swami's permission. Swami, this person has come with this prayer. Can I take his prayer and bring it to you? And most often than not, Swami would say, okay, bring it. But there were times when Swami would say no. And those were very challenging times for him because he used to wonder, how do I go and tell this person that, Bhagwan is not accepting your prayer? Because when people come to Swami, they come as their last resort because they are in dire need of his grace. And at that point in time, you want to go and give them hope. So once when he was with Bhagawan, in a personal interaction that he had the opportunity, he asked Swami, while you're giving me this chance to serve you, but this task of refusing to accept a letter from a devotee has been a very, very difficult thing for me to do. Sometimes people misunderstand me also. They think that I perhaps didn't present their case properly to you. And I don't know what is my role there. How should I understand this situation and how should I prepare myself for such occasions? Am I going wrong? And then Swami said, see, when a person comes to my door, your interaction with him starts at that point. But my interaction and my involvement with that person starts even before the thought came to him to write that letter. And even if I don't accept that letter, I am still with him. My involvement continues with him. So don't think from the point of view of that single instance. So when that person gives a letter, whether I accept that letter or not depends on that person's karma, that person's intentions, that person's tendencies. What is it that I want that person to cultivate? And when I give that message to you, how you communicate that to that person, that depends on your karma. And the way that person responds to this refusal again decides his karma. So Swami said that you're feeling empathy towards them, that is a very good thing. you should always do your duty with love. Now, that person, when I don't take his letter, how he accepts that? Does he feel that God has betrayed me, or does he feel, no, whatever God does, it is for my good? That will decide his future karma. And Swami said, only those people who accept everything from the divine as the best thing that can happen to them, their cups to receive the divine grace is much larger. And if we want to go closer to God, then we should have that kind of an approach. Bhagawan in a discourse said there are 4 walls on which the edifice of Indian culture and spirituality principles stand, and that is Janma, Karma, Dharma, and Brahma. So we are born to do karma. Our Janma is for karma. But how we do that karma, is it on dharmic lines? That will decide whether we are going towards Brahma, whether we are going towards God. And I think Swami said that I am having such a ceremony at an early age for all the children, because they have to know what is the purpose of their janma, what should be their karma, and how they should pursue the path of dharma in their karma so that they achieve Brahma. And very beautifully, Swami says that in a marriage ceremony, when the Mangala Sutra it is tied to the bride, in that moment itself, the bride instantly gets access to half the share of everything that belongs to the husband. Swami said, when Upanayanam happens, there is a sacred thread that is invested. And this thread gives you the right to God's grace, to God's property, God's authority. So it is that Sharanagati Sutra, Swami said. So only when you realize that no matter what I acquire in life, if I have not acknowledged the existence and the primacy of the divine principle, whatever I may do in life, that will never be safe, that will never be sustaining, and that will never take me anywhere. And I think this Upanayanam ceremony, which Swami himself performed over so many decades, was to instill and let every child know that their connect starts with the divine. Once they have begun to know the world, once they have begun to ask the right questions, the first thing they should know is their relationship exists with the divine. From there, their spiritual journey starts.
Right, and as the name itself suggests, the ceremony is called Upanayana, and Swami would often speak of the other words which have similar sounds. Upanishad is sitting close to a guru and learning from him.
Yes.
Or Upavasa is that which allows you to stay closer to God. Similarly, Upanayana actually means moving closer, which means this is the beginning of a journey where you move closer to God. 2 other words which create confusion in people's mind when you speak about Upanayanams is some people believe that it is for a certain varna, right, a certain caste. The Brahmins generally undergo it. Of course, traditionally, I think it was done in the other varnas also, but over the generations, it has come to be that only the Brahmins undergo it. So in Swami's discourses, Swami has cleared and clarified who is a Brahmana. Right, and similarly, when you talk about the Upanayana marks the beginning of the Brahmachari phase. Swami explains who is a Brahmachari, right? And I think that is what is important, because any ceremony that Swami performed, any celebration that Swami started off, any observation that Swami wanted all of us to participate in, had an inner significance, and that was universal. That was never for any set of individuals. It was not confined to gender. It was not confined to any varna ashrama or to any stage in life. So when we talk about this concept of a brahmachari, we all must have heard this very beautiful explanation that Swami has given. Swami says that the human life is like a 4-storied building, or rather a 3-storied building, where the 4th one is the foundation. And Swami says the foundation is this brahmachari phase. And then you have the grihastha in the 1st floor, then the vanaprastha, and then eventually the sannyasa. Swami says that in the sannyasa phase, you give up every attachment and complete vairagya sets in, and you embrace Brahman. But the foundation is brahmachari phase. Right? And the Upanayanam ceremony marks the beginning of this brahmachari phase. And Swami would again very beautifully explain what is this whole idea of the necessity of being a brahmachari. There's a very beautiful discourse that Swami had once delivered to the students in the school. You know, when you read about all of this Upanishads and Vedanta and all that, you're a bit overwhelmed a little, right? So many concepts and so many topics are being spoken about, dhyana, japa, this and that. So Swami was talking about Ashtanga Yoga. And imagine Swami speaking to teenagers. Ashtanga Yoga is already a huge concept. And Swami said, Ashtanga Yoga is, you don't have to worry about all the 8 limbs of the yoga. Practice only the first one, Swami said. It starts with yama and niyama. Swami said, practice only yama, that is enough. And then Swami goes on to explain yama has 5 aspects. Where Swami speaks about the importance of brahmacharya phase. The interesting thing that Swami spoke there was, see, a brahmachari, just like how Upanayana means moving closer. A brahmachari means, Swami said, one whose thoughts are always centered around Brahman. Right? But in different stages of life, the meaning of brahmachari varies. And Swami gave a beautiful explanation. He says, in the student phase, it means celibacy. Right? It means continence and you're focusing on your education. Then Swami went on to say there is a brahmacharya even in grihastha. Even in the householder phase, there is a certain brahmachari discipline that you have to follow. Swami said, in the presence of any woman other than your wife, or for the wife, in the presence of any man other than the husband, you become a brahmachari or brahmacharini. Similarly, in the vanaprastha stage, Swami said, the husband and wife start living like brothers and sisters. That is the brahmachari that you face in the vanaprastha stage. So Swami said, all of this will fall in place if you follow the brahmachari phase in the student life. And in the Indian tradition, this was considered very important, as we've seen at the age of 8 or before 8, this is generally performed. To mark that, we have started you on this journey. And of course, there is the confusion then comes of Brahmin. Who is a Brahmin? Is it a certain caste? Is it a certain tradition that is followed? And Swami beautifully explains that when a human being is born, right, he said, you may be the son of a Chakravarti or you might be the son of a peasant, but the way you're born is the same, right? You're delivered the same way by the mother. So everyone who is born, and then Swami says, when you're born in that infant stage, there is no right and wrong. There is no dirty and clean. Right? You wallow in your own filth. There is no sense of what is right and what is clean and all of that. So which means everyone is born as a Shudra. Right? And then Swami says, through the process of karma, you're introduced through the ceremony of the Upanayana. Swami says you're brought in, and this is referred to as, once the Upanayana is performed, you're referred to as a Dvija, which means you're twice born, right? And I remember even in our Sanskrit classes, all used to be told that there are 2 entities in nature which are called Dvijas. Birds are called Dvijas because the first birth is when the egg is laid and the second birth is when the egg is hatched. Similarly, one who goes through the ceremony of the Upanayana, first he is born or she is born, and then when this Upanayanam happens, you're again born, right? Then so Swami says you're born a Shudra, then you have the birth as the Dvija. After you initiated into this Upanayanam ceremony, or by this Upanayanam ceremony, you begin the study of the Shastras. And then you become a Vipra, which means you're a scholar or you're a learned person. And once you have learned, by practicing what you have learned, eventually you become a Brahmin because your thoughts are centered around Brahman. Right? So Swami says you are not a Brahmin at the time of birth, you are not a Brahmin when the Upanayanam is performed, you are a Brahmin only when that Brahma Tattva is established in your mind. And that is why talking about Upanayanam, what Swami has said on the various occasions, is applicable to each one of us, whether we have undergone that ceremony or we have that in our tradition or not, because this is only representation of a journey that Swami wants every individual to undergo. We may not gone through the process as a tradition, but the learning is open to each one of us.
Absolutely. In fact, as you were talking, the one thing that all this anchors on is discipline.
Right.
So, because like Swami said, yama niyama, if you follow that, that is sufficient. And especially at a young age and at teenage, it is almost like showing the youngsters an alternate path to their lives. And if we were to observe what Swami did for us as students, it would be so clear. The other point that you mentioned is it is for everybody. So the prayer that is chanted is always chanted by the whole hostel. Like, for example, if you take the hostel routine,
Yes.
there is no differentiation of who has done the Upanayanam, who has had the Upanayanam ceremony, who has not had the Upanayanam ceremony. Everybody is allowed to chant the Gayatri Mantra. Everybody is allowed to chant. In fact, Swami goes one step further. Swami says, they say that the woman should not chant Gayatri Mantra, but who is Gayatri? She herself is an embodiment. She is the mother. And so everybody can chant the Gayatri Mantra. And looking keenly at the hostel routine, you can almost equate it to that of a Gurukulam. See, now we are talking about Indian culture. We are talking about a ceremony that was started off as a Vedic ritual. But what is the inner significance of such an Upanayanam? So here, if you see the hostel and the way Swami's education institutions is set up, on one side, he makes prayer a common thing for everybody, breaking the taboo that, only if you have had that Upanayanam, you should chant the Gayatri Mantra. The other aspect, which is very beautiful in Swami's Gurukulam, is the way the teachers live along with the students. And Swami would say that they are acharyas. Acharyas are those who practice and then lead by example. In our Indian cultural traditions, there is this beautiful term called Nitya Karma Anushtanam. So this is something, it's Nitya Karma. This is something which you have to do repeatedly. Every day you will have to repeat it. And when it comes to the topic of Nitya Karma Anushtanam, there is no difference between a student and a guru, an acharya, or anybody. So everybody does Nitya Karma Anushtanam every day. So I think in that sense, the whole concept of prayer, the whole concept of everybody being given access to this wisdom, it's almost like all of us are given this equal opportunity. So you're given an opportunity and you're given the awareness that this is a direction you can grow in. Now it is up to you. How interested you are, how keen you are to follow this path.
In fact, when you think about it, the ancient sages, they had mandated that it has to be done early in life, at the age of 8, 9. And Bhagawan would say that, when a sapling is growing, it needs a fence. So if you don't provide that fence at the right time, then Swami would say, there would be goats and there would be cow, they will come and nibble and the tree will not survive. So I think that is the reason why Bhagavan is so particular that when students are in the hostel, there is really a very strict routine. There are a lot of limitations about their movements. There is no amount of distraction that is allowed. I think even in our hostels, even today in our hostels, I guess, mobile phones are not so easily accessible by the students. So at the same time, nobody misses the mobile phones because Bhagavan has filled the routine with so many activities. So I think this whole purpose that when you are growing, you need to have that spiritual discipline. Only then the stem of that tree will become stronger. And once it becomes stronger, Swami said, then, no matter what be the wind or no matter what be the obstacle, no matter what be the natural or man-made calamity, you will be able to go through it. And that is the reason why you will see that Swami was so insistent. I mean, even slight lapse in a student of any of these disciplines, he would be he would come on and reprimand very heavily. In fact, there are occasions when someone would just look on the lady's side and Swami would get so upset. I think it was all that at that phase Swami used to say only two words: Swami and studies. When you are studying, when you are a student, the only two things that should matter to you, Bhagwan and your studies. So, when you were talking about how everyone is actually born a Shudra, everyone is actually, through their actions only, they can become whatever the other varnas that Bhagwan used to mention. So there was this occasion when, on this Raksha Bandhan day, and the Shravana Purnima day, you have the sacred threads
Right.
being changed. So once Bhagwan was distributing these threads, and it happens even now in the hostels when Swami would bless these sacred threads, and that's the time you change your sacred thread. So as Swami was giving them in the veranda, so there was one boy who had missed. So somebody told him, and he rushed and he came to Bhagwan. And so when Swami saw him, Swami asked, "Are you a Brahmin?" And he, with a lot of pride and confidence, he said, "Yes, Swami, I am a Brahmin." And Swami said, "You Brahmin, no Brahmin, Donga Brahmin," Swami said. "You are a false Brahmin," Swami said. And this boy was really taken aback because he actually came from a very orthodox Brahmin family. He grew up in a rural
You
a
call it an
town.
agrahara.
Agrahara.
Where Brahmin communities
Exactly. Yeah, he grew up in a
live
Brahmin
together,
community.
practice
Even though his
rituals.
father was in the city, he was with the grandmother. See, he grew up, as you're saying, in that Brahmin community. So he was very surprised. Like Swami is telling, you are not, you're a fake Brahmin. And then, so he picked up courage and he said, "Swami, I belong to the Atreya Gotra. So I belong to the lineage of Atreya." And Swami said, "Okay, but how does that make you a Brahmin?" Then he did not know what to say. I've even mentioned my lineage, and here Bhagwan is not willing to accept. So and Swami said, "Nobody becomes a Brahmin by birth." And very beautifully Swami said, "See, if there is an IS officer, how does he become an IS officer? By his effort. Now the son of an IS officer, does he automatically become an IS officer?" And interestingly, his father was actually an IS officer. So just because your father is an IS officer, will you also by default become an IS officer? No. As Swami said, when you are born, everybody is low born, but it is only our actions that will make us a Brahmin, and anybody can become a Brahmin. If our mind is centered towards Brahman, if our mind moves towards Brahma, as I said, our Janma, Karma, Dharma, and Brahma, if you move towards Brahma, then you can become a Brahmin. And I think Bhagwan has opened the doors for anyone to become a Brahmin, anyone to follow this path. And that is what this Upanayanam ceremony does to all of us and reminds all of us, isn't it?
Okay, when we are talking about democratizing some of these rituals and practices, because that is what Swami has done. When we were talking to one of the very elderly devotees during the Ati Rudram, she was making a very beautiful point. Swami democratized Gayatri Mantra, and now he has democratized Rudram, which is
Rudram.
considered to be very
Yes.
an exclusive rite of a certain disciplined community. So when we were talking of that, especially when we were talking about the university and the hostel, some of our audience might feel that we do not have that luxury of going through that, the disciplines in the hostel, or some of our children might not necessarily go through that. But I think what Swami has done is he has taken some practices of these traditions, right? That brahmachari phase, what a youngster is put through.
Yes.
And in a modified way, Swami actually brought it about in the hostel. And if we take a look at that, I think that can be replicated in each one's life, even if they're not a student in Swami's university or the schools. Because, in the ceremony of the Upanayanam, first, of course, is the sacred thread, which is a reminder that, you have been initiated. So don't forget that this is the goal. This is where you're journeying towards that. Thread which is worn is actually a reminder.
Yes.
I remember 1965 when Swami did the Mass Upanayanam. Swami said, "I'm recruiting you all in my army." Right? The discourse itself is titled "The Recruits in Swami's Army" or something like that. So Swami said this is a reminder. So that's the first aspect. The second one, of course, is the mantropadesham of
Yes.
the Gayatri Mantra.
Gayatri.
We'll come to some of the beautiful episodes related to that. And the third thing is, after this ceremony is done with, the Vatu, or that monk, young monk who has just gone through
Yes.
that ceremony, is supposed to turn to the mother and ask for bhiksha. He says, Bhavati Bhikshan Dehi, which means give me food. So the mother gives him food. The significance of that ceremony is when you are going through that Vidyarthi phase, when you're going through that student phase, you are supposed to be a dependent on society. Right? You're not supposed to be a breadwinner. You're not supposed to think about making money. You have to acknowledge and accept that you are a dependent on society. Right? And that is why you're told to beg for your food. It's a reminder that for the next few years, the society is going to take care of you. So when you graduate to the Grihastha phase, it becomes your duty to care for the society. Right? And how did Swami bring that about in our hostels? Swami was very clear that when you're studying, you're not going to think about money, campus placements, or how much money will you get when you finish this course. So Swami said, Swami would very beautifully say, you're a Vidyarthi, don't be a Vishayarthi. Right? A Vidyarthi means one who is craving for Vidya or learning. A Vishayarthi who is interested in objects. So that was also reflected in how Swami made the living a little bit frugal compared to anywhere outside. So when we are in a role of mentoring children, are we able to do some of these things in their life? That you are in a student phase, don't think about making money, don't think about having that extra pocket money of doing a job. No, focus on studies. If you have extra time, learn something more, develop some talent, because that is how Swami ensured that all our minds were focused on that learning, focused on Swami, and acknowledge, as you're going through this phase, remember that you are being fed by society. You are under the you are using the resources of society to develop your learning, develop your personality. And when you remember that, a phase will come when you will serve society again, right? So Swami says, when you go to the Grihastha phase, you might be making money, but you'll know that this is only an opportunity for me to serve society. Right? So how beautifully Swami aligns, as we said, that the four stories of human life, and how dangerous it is that if you don't get it right in that foundation, you have the danger of wrecking the whole thing.
Exactly. In fact, you are talking about how do we replicate this. I think you see that even in the Sathya organizations and in so many devotees' homes, you have these Balvikas classes. You have parents of Sai devotees who bring up their children in this manner. It's a question of following that routine. It's a question of taking these aspects and making a part of your life, no matter where you are. As Swami once said, everybody is a Sai student. Anybody who follows these principles is a Sai student. And as you were saying, when Bhagawan brought all these practices back in and giving them a modern makeover, Swami, when he conducted these Upanayanams way back in 1963, 64, 65, Swami told this priest very clearly that don't go after exhibitionism. Don't go after all those unnecessary things that have got added on. Keep it very, very simple. And Swami was very particular that, there could be some families who come from well-to-do societies. So they may be able to afford certain of these practices. And he did not want that anybody on that day should have an element of sorrow in them. So Swami had very clear instructions that these should be the backbone of the celebration. And 1963, when Swami did this Upanayanam for all the Veda Pathshala students, there were 35 of them. And so in Indian tradition, you have so many rites that happen before the Upanayanam. This tonsure rite, this ear piercing rite. And so some of the children, 16 of them had not had this ear piercing rite. So Swami instantly created these golden wires and he did this ear piercing ceremony for all of them. On that occasion, when the priest said that, Swami, we want all the mothers to stand behind the vatus. And Swami said, no, I am going to stand behind all these children. And you know the reason why? there were some children who did not have mothers. And Swami said, this is a day when they are going to be blessed with the grief destroying Gayatri Mantra. They cannot be shedding a tear of sorrow. They cannot be in grief when they're being given the Gayatri Mantra, feeling that they don't have a mother. I am the mother for all of them. So that is how in 1963 Swami was the mother for all the Vatus. And as you are mentioning about this alms that these Vatus seek after the ceremony. So Swami himself, again as the mother, gives those gifts. And even before the ceremony, be it the copper vessels, be it the clothes, be it the mementos, everything the previous evening Swami had given, and they would come in a procession and everything. And after the ceremony, Swami would ask all these Vatus to do pranams, salutations to their parents, and Swami would tell them about Matudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava. And one very important thing that Swami would insist is gratitude. In fact, on one occasion, Swami said, when somebody asked Swami, what is that most endearing quality that you want in every student? Swami said, it is gratitude. Even if you do mistakes in life, I, as your supreme merciful teacher, I will still protect you and save you. But if you do not have gratitude in your life, then I also will not come to your rescue, Swami said. And so he would instill this virtue of gratitude to parents, gratitude to society, gratitude to the divine. So this is what happened in 1963. And in 1964, Bhagawan did again Mass Upanayanam for 300 students. In 1965, when Bhagawan again conducted this, the most beautiful thing about 1965 was Swami personally went to every Vatu, and in that serene silence, he whispered a mantra in the ear of each of these chosen ones.
Actually, we were fortunate to speak to one of those Vatus in 1965 who was part of the Upanayanam ceremony. I think the Telugu team had done a beautiful interview with that person, and he narrated the whole ceremony, how it happened. And I think it happened in one of the sheds, not even in the Purnachandra. I think one of the big sheds they had. They'd done all. They were seated with their parents, and they came in that procession. Swami had given all the vessels and everything, and Swami did the Gayatri Upadesha first. So apparently Swami stood on the dais and was chanting the Gayatri Mantra, and Swami said, as I am chanting it, I want the fathers to whisper it in the Vatu's ear, right? So that was done, and after that was over, Swami called only all the boys who were undergoing the Upanayanam to the bhajan hall. Swami said nobody will come, not even the parents. And in that bhajan hall session, Swami called each one of them to come to him, and Swami would bend down, every one of them bent down and whispered in their ear. And this person was saying that he had come with a few of his cousins, and I mean, as little children, they immediately shared notes amongst themselves and realized that Swami had given a unique mantra for each one of them. Right, and some was like Sai Ram with something,
Shri Ram,
right,
Satya Sai Ram,
or with Shiva or something like that. So each one, and he says that all of us, even today, along with Gayatri Mantra, we do japam of that mantra which Swami did. In fact, there's another beautiful, I think 1963, when Swami was doing the same thing. Swami made each one of the Vatus come to him, and Swami whispered in their ear, having a towel covering his head and their head. Apparently, that's how traditionally it is done. And Swami was sitting there, and for each one of them, imagine that beautiful sight of Swami covering both their heads with a towel and whispering that in each one's ear. I mean, that is the amount of interest and energy that Swami put into each one of these Upanayanam ceremonies that he performed, not just the Mass Upanayanam, because we are talking about Mass Upanayanam on the eve of a Mass Upanayanam, but Swami has done this even individually for so many people, explaining the significance of the events involved in it, isn't it?
Very true. In fact, there are some videos, and of course Swami has done this several times, but a couple of videos which we have in our collection where you actually see Swami doing the Upanayanam. In most of the cases he materializes the Upanayanam, the thread, sacred thread, and very lovingly Swami explains what is the meaning of the sacred thread in a couple of the videos. And some of the friends who have had the great opportunity of Swami actually doing it for them in the interview room. Swami explains, he opens the thread and he says there are 3 threads. And then he explains what is the significance of the 3 threads. All of them come tied to one place, the Brahma Mudi, that Brahma is not. That's what Swami says. Swami says the 3 threads are very significant. Trikalam, then we have the Trimurtis, and we have Triguna. So Trikalam, he says past, present, and future. And then you have Trimurti, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And you have 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So he says, at all the 3 times, you have to remember all the 3, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and go beyond the 3 gunas.
Beautiful.
So that is the significance of the Upanayanam. The 3 threads coming together in the Brahma knot, and the whole scene is so endearing, like a proud parent. Swami is, literally giving them this, journey that they are going to take forward. In one of the videos, Swami is speaking to this young boy who just before performing the Upanayanam. And they are from an American, they are living in the US, so they have a little bit of an accent. So Swami says, who is Gayatri? And then he says, Gad. Swami says, Gad? She is goddess. It's not Gad. So very lovingly, spent so much time. And in fact, he even mentions that this is the most important part of this entire ceremony. You have to spend time and teach them what is the significance of Upanayanam. It's not just those who have the sacred thread feel we are holier than the rest of the people. It is for everybody. And the moment you take up the practice of chanting the Gayatri Mantra or chanting these mantras with gratitude, then you are eligible for this path.
In fact, I remember there was one person, again, I think in the 60s, who came to Bhagawan, and he had 7 sons, and all ranging from 8 to 28. And he had not performed the Upanayanam for them. Swami said, get it done now. Doesn't matter. Start the journey now. And Swami said, ensure that they chant this with vigor. They should chant it with relish. They should own this mantra, and they should not think that it's an imposition. They should do it with joy. Then they will benefit from the practice and the power of the Gayatri Mantra. And when all these celebrations, these mass Upanayanams happen, there's always, while somebody is very happy, delighted, there'll be always someone who will feel, oh my God, I missed it. Somebody's Upanayanam is already done, or somebody feels they're not yet reached that age. So there was once one occasion like that where in 1974, where during the summer course in the month of May, so Swami was performing this Upanayanam, and there was a brother who had just come into Swami's fold 2-3 years, and he was still contemplating, whether to join here or not. His cousin had become a student, and there was lot of indications, and there were a lot of requests from his cousin that, why don't you become a student? And when he came to Vrindavan, and he saw Bhagawan. In fact, his father, after he became a devotee, they would spend a lot of time in Vrindavan. They would the summer courses, they would listen to Bhagawan's discourses, and somehow that had an impact on him, and he had given up this thought of going for engineering, and he had thought, Swami, I want to become a student. That kind of had settled in his mind. And so this is the month of May, and they are attending the summer course, and he hears that Swami, as he's performing Upanayanam, Swami said the students in the Vrindavan hostel, they can also join. So his cousin also had the opportunity, And his father was feeling now very bad. That, because in the month of April, because he had already come of age, his father had done the Upanayanam for him and his brother. He was already by that time 17, 18, and his father was really very despondent. How I missed this chance. So on the day of the Upanayanam, his father told both him and his brother, you do one thing, you wear the Upanayanam clothes. Yeah, you wear the dhoti, you wear the Angavastram, and on that day, and you come for darshan. And these two brothers were saying, how funny it is, we are already having the sacred thread. How can we wear all this and sit in darshan? First of all, you don't dress like that for darshan. But his father was very insistent. No, you have to go to darshan on that day in the dhoti. So they go for darshan, and Bhagawan comes, and Swami is looking on the ladies' side. Swami does not notice them, and so obviously his father is not happy, and Swami goes quietly inside, and the Upanayanam ceremony is happening behind Swami's bungalow, so people cannot see. Suddenly, there was a Sevadal running, and he came to them and he said, Swami has made an announcement that apart from the parents of the Vatus, one relative is also allowed. Okay, so now his cousin, who was his father's sister's son, was inside. So his father said to his mother, okay, you go, because you can be along with your sister-in-law, one person is allowed. So the mother of these two brothers, they go in, and as soon as she goes in, within a couple of minutes, she rushes out. And she's rushing out with tears in her eyes, and she's telling, come, 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 Swami's calling, Swami's calling, Swami's calling. And so both the brothers, now they also go in, and the moment Swami looks at them, Swami said, you also sit. And Swami then distributes the sacred thread to everyone. And when Swami comes near them, Swami also very lovingly invests them also with the sacred thread. And when I think about it, if you have that yearning, it was that pure desire of that father that my children should be blessed with this initiation by Swami, and Swami made it happen. And if you think of the child had already made up his mind that I want to become a Sai student. And here Swami was saying, no matter, even if you are now not a student, the moment you had this yearning to go to God, here I am, I'm calling you, I'm giving you that blessing. So I think no matter where we are, if we have that yearning, I think Swami will bless us in his own way, and he'll make us part of this sacred journey. He will become a part of us.
I mean, and the idea is, Swami appreciating this thought, as
Yes.
beautifully you narrated, that yearning to have it done. And the way Swami showed that this is a very important ceremony, this is a very important tradition, is in the way he appreciated parents who are very keen on doing it. Sometimes parents who are not very keen on doing it, Swami would say, have you performed the Upanayanam?
Yes.
And then Swami would give them the incentive of, I will do it for them. Right? So it must have been a tradition that is buried in the family, but Swami saying that I will perform,
Yes.
creates that keenness to resurrect this tradition in the family. There's another beautiful episode which was narrated by one of our seniors. Of course, the context of the story is completely different, but it is somewhere related to an Upanayanam. Swami was once, talking to the students, and Swami was talking about the importance of money. And some things that usually Swami says, money should be like footwear, it should not be too small, it should not be too big. Both makes it uncomfortable, and some of these analogies Swami would give. The other one that Swami would usually give is that money should be like water. It should not be stagnant, it should flow. And then Swami said, let me tell you something that happened this morning, right? And Swami narrated a story of, there was a Brahmin from, I think, East Godavari or somewhere. It was a time when there was this huge floods, when most of them had lost all their property and all that. So one very poor Brahmin father had come from that place, And he met one of the lecturers in Swami's college at that time. And he said, "Sir, I'm coming from this place. I've lost all my property and my house is all washed away. I don't have any money, but I've come to Swami for a very specific purpose. I have to perform the Upanayanam for my son." Right? He says that's a very important dharma that I have to do. So I don't want money for anything else, but I want a little bit of money for this. Can you request on my behalf to Swami that I need 2,000 rupees? He said, "I don't want for anything else, but only for this purpose." And this lecturer was very moved, but he said, "Sir, I understand your predicament, but I can't go and tell Swami this because nobody can come between Swami and a devotee. Swami will come in the darshan line, you can ask Swami," but he said, "No, this is very critical for me. I don't want to not have this happen. I don't want to take the chances of Swami coming and I'm not able to tell it to him. You're every day going inside Swami's bungalow. Can you please do this?" He said, "Sir, it doesn't work that way. All I can do is when I'm in Swami's presence, I'll pray for you." Right? But more than that, I will not be able to do. So the father was a little disappointed, but nevertheless, he went and sat in the darshan line. So Swami narrated this whole episode of the interaction which happened. Swami said, the lecturer didn't come and tell me. He gave a very good advice to him. He said, "You see, very rightly, he said, I can't come between the devotee and Swami." Then Swami said, "See, the prayer of that devotee was noble. He wanted to do Upanayanam for his son. The prayer of this lecturer was very sincere and selfless." Swami said, "So I decided to answer the prayer." So then Swami said, as I was coming out for darshan, I took an envelope and I put, Swami told an exact, how many notes that he put, right? 2,000 rupees. I think Swami said, 20, 100 rupee notes. Crisp 20, 100 rupee notes, Swami said. I put it in an envelope. I went for darshan. I found that Brahmin. I gave it to him and came. Right? And then so as Swami was telling this, Swami had a bunch of letters in his hand and he was, sifting through them. Then Swami looked at the boys and Swami said, "What did I give him?" So they said, "Swami, 20, 100 rupee notes." And Swami just picked up a random envelope. And Swami gave it to one of the boys and Swami said, "See what is there inside." And when they opened it, some devotee had handed an envelope to Swami which had 20, 100 rupee notes. Swami said, "See, I gave, it has come back to me." And Swami said, like this only money should be. It should always keep flowing. Swami said, "Now I have got the money, it should flow." Swami gave 100 rupees to each one who was there. "See, now I have distributed it off." Right? What a beautiful setting to teach an important lesson to all the students. But at the same time, since we're talking about Upanayanam, yes, Swami saying that was such a noble thought, that of all the things that I can provide my children, to set them on this journey to spiritualizing one's life is a very important thought that a parent has with regards to the future of their children. And that is why I think Swami gave so much importance to this. As I said, inviting devotees to bring their children for Mass Upanayanam, or telling them that I will do them personally. So many times Swami has done this in interview rooms.
Yes.
And Swami has materialized it. I think there are some Mass Upanayanams where Swami would come and materialize vibhuti and sprinkle it on, or akshatas and sprinkle it on.
I think at the end of the ceremony, Swami would go around and
throwing
sprinkle
akshatas,
right, on all the vatus. And I think it has happened on every major celebration. Definitely, you have the 60th birthday or 65th birthday or 70th birthday. I think this was one of those activities that invariably Swami performed. And Swami's insistence on everybody learning the Gayatri Mantra. In fact, if you have the recording of Swami chanting the Gayatri Mantra, it is because of these Mass Upanayanam ceremonies.
And I used to think that, when Swami was one of the Mass Upanayanams and Swami was speaking about giving the discourse, and then he was chanting the Gayatri Mantra. He said, "We might not have undergone the Upanayanam, but we have got the Upadesha."
Yes,
directly from Swami himself.
This whole urge of the parents to perform the Upanayanam of their sons, there's a very beautiful incident recorded in Satyam Shivam Sundaram, in which Mr. Ramachandran, so he is a devotee from Pune, and he had two sons and he was very keen. He had a prayer inside him that I should perform the Upanayanam of my two sons this summer, somehow or the other. And this was way back in 1965. And one day, so he did not share this prayer of his with anybody. As he was coming back home, both his sons come running out and they say, "Father, see what has happened, see what has happened." And he said, "What has happened?" And they show him a telegram which read that Sri Sathya Sai Baba will participate in the Upanayanam ceremony of your sons on the 5th of May 1965. So this happened on 26th April. And he says, on 5th of May, your son's Upanayanam, Sri Sathya Sai Baba will participate.
Will participate.
And give
So,
the Brahmopadesha.
so the telegram said, Sri Sathya Sai Baba will participate in the Upanayanam ceremony and will give Brahmopadesham. So the three words, Sathya, then Brahmopadesham and Upanayanam were underlined in the telegram. So interestingly, such a detailed and beautiful telegram. And this man was completely thrilled, like Swami showing that, this prayer which he silently had in his heart, Swami is fulfilling it in this way. And they actually inquired, who gave this telegram and where was this telegram sent from? And when they went to the post, they realized it came from the central post office. So they went there and asked, they said that one person came and they asked this person, who are you? Why do you want to send this telegram? He said, no, I don't have any permanent address. I am a traveler. I come and go. Then they say, no, you have to put a name. Who is sending this telegram? He says, okay, I am Margada Velu. Put my name and I am care of Sri Sai Samaj, Mailapur. So they put that, he said he put that name. And then he says, you send this telegram. So they had no idea who is this, and he says, I am a person with no permanent address. I just keep coming and going. So a very strange way of declaring his identity. So of course the father knew it is Swami, and on the 5th of May they conducted the Upanayanam ceremony, and with a lot of devotion and always hoping that Swami is there. Because Swami had given that indication that he would attend the Upanayanam. And when they did the bhajans after the Upanayanam ceremony, all of them could see that it was as if somebody was seated on Swami's chair. On the cloth which they had spread for Swami's chair, you could see that somebody was sitting on that chair. And even the jasmine flowers which were kept on Swami's hand, like they are kept, it was as if Swami had put his hand on them and all the flowers were pressed. So it is just that urge of the parent to do this Upanayanam ceremony, and immediately Swami responded.
So beautiful. We mentioned about how Upanayanam is taking one near God. That's
Right.
what one of the meanings is. Bhagawan has said that Upanayanam also has another connotation which refers to the conferment of the third eye. So that Nayana means you are going to be blessed with the third eye. Swami said we have two eyes, and these two eyes help us to examine the variety and the diversity of the world. But for us to know the magnificence and the majesty of the inner world, you need the third eye. And this third eye can come to you only through the chanting of the Gayatri Mantra. Only through the chanting of the Gayatri Mantra can you explore realms of your spirit, and you can unlock the force of your soul. And I think that is the reason why Bhagavan was so insistent that every student should chant the Gayatri Mantra. In fact, we have so many instances of students who have made Gayatri Mantra a part of their daily life, and how it has helped them improve their IQ, it has protected them, it has saved them from so many dangers. In fact, there was one student, who was in Vrindavan campus, and he had this urge to do something for Swami. He said, I'm not a singer, I can't sing, I am not an artist, but he loved to play. So he said, he wanted to hit a half century for Swami. That was his offering to Swami. And so he was initiated into the Sandhya Vandanam when he was small. So during his prayers, as he was chanting Gayatri Mantra, he prayed to Gayatri that, please ensure that I become part of the cricket team and I'm able to make this offering. And so when the selections happen, he hits 56 runs and he gets selected, and he says, see, because of that blessing of the mother, I was able to do this half century. That was my offering to Swami, and it was Gayatri Mantra which gave me that power. In fact, when the match was going on, his mind was only suffused with the vision of Gayatri, and that is how he hit those fours and sixes, and he achieved his half century. I think there are so many such stories. I think if you look at all these students, the excellent results that we have in our school also, it is because of how the 10th class students, the 12th class students, they have made Gayatri chanting a part of their daily routine, isn't it?
Right, and very appropriately during the IPL time, some of the players would have loved to hear this before or during the tournament.
Yes.
But the significance of that is, Swami has explained the Gayatri Mantra so beautifully. And whenever he speaks about it, he says, Bhur, Bhuvaha, and Suvaha represents the body, mind, and Atma.
Yes.
Which means chanting of the Gayatri Mantra can have an effect on all three. Which means it strengthens the body, it sharpens the mind or the intellect, and it enables you to move closer to God. And talking about cricket and Swami Gayatri Mantra enabling the body, there's a very beautiful episode which happened to us as part of one of the programs that we do. As Brother Ganesh and I used to do a children's hour program, and as part of it, one of the things that we would do is have a conversation with a child. Right, and just a freewheeling conversation, and they would tell some very beautiful things and very insightful for even all of us. So he was conversing with a child who had actually come for his Upanayanam ceremony to India from the US. His grandparents were living in Puttaparthi, so he had come for his Upanayanam ceremony, and we had this conversation just after he had finished his Upanayanam, maybe that morning or the day before he had finished. So Ganesh was having that conversation with him. And one of the things that Ganesh had asked him was like, what is it that you want to achieve in life? Or is there something that you're looking forward to? And this boy, being a very little boy in school, he said, I'm really keen in making it to the school's football team. Right? So he said that I'm very puny and very short. So I never get selected to the football team. All my classmates are taller than me and more well-built. So I'm missing the opportunity. So Ganesh told him that, you've just finished your Upanayanam. Why don't you chant the Gayatri Mantra regularly? Right? Because Swami says that Gayatri Mantra has a lot of power. You chant Gayatri Mantra regularly, I'm sure it will help you. So this boy, in all his innocence, he said, do you think really it will help me get into the football team? Right? Because I'm sure that that's not what he was told during the Upanayanam ceremony. And he said, no, Swami says that it's useful for everything. You try it out. Right? And this boy goes back and he must have done it really sincerely. Because a few months later, his grandparents came to Radio Sai again and said, we would like to speak to Ganesh because our grandson said that he called up and he said he wants to speak to you. Right? And then that boy says that I wanted to thank you because not only did I make it to the football team, I've become the captain of the team. Because I've practiced Gayatri Mantra chanting as you told me. Right? So that's the beauty that, as we said, Bhur, Bhuva and Suva. In fact, Professor Kasturi used to say that apparently one time he had gone to Swami and Swami asked him about a small errand that Swami had given him. And he said, Swami, I forgot it in all of the things I'm doing. It slipped my mind. Swami said, see, all of this happens when you do a lot of things. The mind loses focus. Swami said, keep chanting the Gayatri Mantra. It will make your intellect sharp. Right? And you will be able to remember what has to be remembered at that particular time. And this is instruction Swami has given so many people, especially students. Swami said it will improve your memory power. So that is why, and as we were saying, that Swami has enabled all of us to take to the chanting of Gayatri Mantra. Right? It is not only for people who have gone through the Upanayanam ceremony.
The whole Upanayanam ceremony, after the Upanayanam ceremony, the Sandhya Vandanam which is done, I think that is a part of the tradition and the part of the traditional practice that every day you have to do Sandhya Vandanam morning, afternoon and evening. And that is what you're taught when you're done when you go through the Upanayanam ceremony. And this is something which is a lifelong practice. In the Sandhya Vandanam itself, first you do the offering of prayer to the sun god, and then there is the chanting of Gayatri, the Gayatri Japam that goes on. this is all linked a lot with gratitude. And Swami would often say that offering your gratitude to the sun and to the energy that is given is very important. And Swami would also remind people that you have forgotten to do your Sandhya Vandanam. There is this beautiful incident of Mr. Rao from Simoga many years back, I think probably in the 60s or 70s. So he came to Swami with a prayer. He wanted to start a business or something. And out of the blue, Swami looked at him and asked, are you doing Sandhya Vandanam? Are you continuing to do Sandhya Vandanam? And he said, Swami, I'm sorry, I've stopped doing. I used to do when I had the Upanayanam, but I've stopped. Swami said, you should continue. You do Sandhya Vandanam. And then he took that very seriously and he started doing Sandhya Vandanam. And as he started doing Sandhya Vandanam, his mind became very calm. And suddenly he remembered that there was a lingam which his grandfather used to worship, which was kind of kept away safely, very safely, that nobody even looked at it. Then he had this inner urge to, bring it back. So he went to the cupboard and opened it, and of course they had kept it safely. So he brought that lingam, which was a dark lingam, which was opaque, and he brought it and he started offering regular worship to that lingam. So apart from doing Sandhya Vandanam, he would also do this puja for the lingam. And something very, very interesting started happening. He said the lingam started changing its color. From a very dark and opaque lingam, he said it started becoming translucent and slightly brownish in color and goldish in color, started changing its color. And then after doing it for some more time, he could actually start seeing the form of Swami in it. So there was clearly that orange robe and Swami's face, and not only him, many people who visited his house, all of them could start seeing Swami in the lingam. So, this is the way Swami actually blesses those who take to this path and those who do Sandhya Vandanam. But again, like we were discussing, you may not know the Sandhya Vandanam, you may not even know the Gayatri Mantra properly. What is important is that feeling of gratitude. And there is this beautiful conversation which the author of this beautiful book, The Vision of the Divine, Dr. Fanibanda, had with Swami. He's a Parsi and a Zoroastrian by his religion. He follows the Zoroastrian faith. But when he came to Swami in the 70s, he heard Swami talking about the Gayatri Mantra a lot. And so he had this deep yearning to learn about the Gayatri Mantra and to learn the Gayatri Mantra from Swami. So immediately after the birthday celebrations in 1972, he prayed to Swami. And Swami very briefly, he and a friend of his were there. Swami briefly told them about the significance of Gayatri, and Swami went because it was also a busy time. But he could not pronounce the words clearly. So he took time to study it, to understand it. And early the next year, 1973, when he came back, he again prayed to Swami. And that time Swami called him and spent a lot of time teaching him the right pronunciation of the words in the Gayatri Mantra. And slowly Swami was chanting and he chanted along. And so he was very, very careful that he should not chant it wrong. And so he asked Swami this question, Swami, if we chant the mantra wrong, what will happen? So we hear that it is not good. And Swami says, yes. If you chant the mantra in the wrong manner, it can have an opposite effect. You should chant it in the right manner. But if you chant it in the wrong manner, it can have an opposite effect. And he said, but what is more important is if you chant it with love for the Lord, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you chant it. That love is important. If you chant it with love, God will accept it. In fact, this beautiful story again in the Sathya Anandadai, where some of the devotees come and tell Swami, this Purohit was chanting the mantras in the mandir. A lot of his pronunciation is not right. We are from the Godavari belt where, the Vedic chants are regularly done. We can bring somebody who chants it perfectly. Swami said, what is the use of that? Here is somebody who is doing it with so much love. Here is somebody who is doing so much of love for me. Nothing else matters. Swami will take care of everything. So I think it comes back again and again to this concept of initially when you're doing the Upanayanam, when we're doing the Gayatri Mantra, it is to streamline our thoughts, it is to bring in a sense of discipline, but that discipline should not be enforced. Like Swami used to say, it should come from the source and it should come with love for the Lord. So the whole process of doing Upanayanam, doing Sandhya Vandanam, doing Gayatri Japam, everything is anchored around that love aspect.
Yes, ultimately love and sincerity that matters. In fact, I remember an occasion where a brother wanted to experiment with the Gayatri Mantra. So he's sitting in the darshan and he's chanting the Gayatri Mantra, and he said, I'm going to chant it 108 times. And Swami has not spoken to him for very long. He thought, let me use the Gayatri Mantra, see if I can get any blessing from Bhagawan. So he started chanting, and Swami is in the interview room, and he finished 20 times, 30 times, 40 times, and Swami has not come out. It's 80 times and Swami is still inside, and he finished 100, and he's opening his eyes and saying, has Swami come out? Or Swami has not come. And he continues to chant. And when he finally is the 107th and 108th chant, Swami suddenly comes out of the interview room, and Swami looks at him, hey, what's your name? So there was a brother who said, what Gayatri Mantra blesses us is this darshanam, sparshanam, sambhashanam. Swami said, this is what Gayatri Mantra will give you. It will connect you to the divine. And because it is a very potent scientific formula, we have no idea about how it can really unlock our brain. In fact, they say even the sacred thread has its own significance about how it energizes our nerve centers. So similarly, the mantra has those bijaksharas, which will activate certain nerve centers. And that's the reason why it's so important to chant it properly. In fact, Swami says, if you chant it properly, then it will create an aura around you and it will protect you. In fact, there was this brother who was going in a bus. He was going to a pilgrimage town, and he was sitting in the last row of the bus. And because it was a very rough road, it was a very arduous journey. And he was someone who used to do Sandhya Vandanam and very devoted to Mother Gayatri. So he started instantly praying to the Mother. And he didn't realize that, he had fallen asleep. And in the dream, Mother comes and Mother Gayatri says, don't worry, from now on, I will take over the bus. Your journey will be smooth. He wakes up after 5 hours, and it was as if someone carried him and carried him through the journey. So that is how Gayatri Mantra will carry us through the journey of life. We have no idea about how it can do it for us, but if we just have to follow, because Swami has told that every student should chant it, because Swami has told that this is a must for every spiritual aspirant, I think this is what we should never ever compromise on our life. Because, and the other very important thing about the Gayatri Mantra is it will give us things of the world, iha and para. It will give us even material benefits as well as spiritual growth. And I think there are very, very few formulas like this. Vishwamitra, he became actually a friend of the world because he was the chosen one to gift us the Gayatri Mantra.
You're talking about Vishwamitra. There's this beautiful story of how he actually came to write the Gayatri Mantra, how the Gayatri Mantra emerged from him. And it was recorded in a small booklet which they distributed during one of the Paduka celebrations in Swami's presence. So I think also during the Gayatri temple inauguration. So that small booklet, so here is the story of King Kaushika.
Yes.
Like Vishwamitra was King Kaushika, who is, very arrogant about his wealth and about his entire power. And he goes to sage Vashishta's ashram, and Nandini, the cow, who is, giving all the food and all the sustenance to the ashram, he wants to own that cow. And the rishi says, no, you cannot. So he's, torn between what he wants and the fact that being a king, he cannot get all that he wants. And then he decides, I should also become a Brahma Rishi. And so he goes in and he starts doing a lot of intense tapas. And as he's doing tapas, the story goes this way, that Mother Parvati asks Lord Shiva that, here is a person who is doing such intense tapas and you're not blessing him. And then Lord Shiva says, there is still some time for him. He, being a king, he has done so many things which, it has to slowly, he has to go beyond that. But the mother says, no, my heart is moved with compassion. I want to go and bless him. So then he says, okay, go ahead. You can go and bless him. And then so the mother comes to him, Mother Parvati comes to him, and she says, see, there is one form of worship you should do. If you do that, you can easily win the grace of the Lord. Mm-hmm. And then he says, what is that? He says, there is a temple called Ekambareshwar temple. And if you go there, there is a huge lamp. There is a huge lamp which has got 5 places where you light with 5 wicks. So it has got 5 faces where you can put 5 wicks. And he says, you should go and light all the 5 and make sure all 5 are burning, and that will please the Lord. So he thought, what is so difficult in this? I mean, to light a lamp, what is so difficult? But when he actually goes there, it's not a small lamp. It is an infinite lamp, a huge lamp. Of course, these stories are all very symbolic. We should understand what they mean. But the story goes this way, that it's a huge lamp, and using his power of yogic powers, he's able to go to the top of the lamp. And there are 5 bhutas, the 5 demons who are guarding the wicks. Now, the moment they see him coming, they take the wicks and they vanish. They go away. So making it all the more difficult for him to actually light the lamp. And at that point in time, he decides, what is the use of all my tapas? What is the use of all my penance? What is the use of this life if I cannot please the Lord? If I cannot do this particular worship, if I do this only, I can please the Lord. And so at that point in time, in an act of supreme sacrifice, Tyaga, which Swami says is so important, he just says, I want to give up this life. And there's nothing more important than making this, lighting this for the lamp. So completely, filled with this sense of Tyaga and completely annihilating his ego, Ahankara, completely doing that, he said, I will become the wick. I will become the wick for this lamp. And he goes and lies down where the wick is to be kept. And then with 5 of those places, and he prays to Lord Agni to come and light him. He says, light me. I am ready to burn as the wick. And the moment the fire catches on, and he's almost on his last moments of his life, that is when the Lord and Parvati are very pleased, and they appear in front of him, and then they bless him. And of course, he's cured in an instant. And that is when the Gayatri Mantra emerges from him. So the Gayatri Mantra emerges because Thiri is the wick. So Gayatri. So he starts singing the Gayatri Mantra at that moment because of that instant blessing that he gets when he's brought back from that. So this Gayatri Mantra, which is born from such an act of supreme sacrifice, is so significant. And there is not one discourse. I can say there are so many discourses in which Swami has given the inner significance of chanting the Gayatri Mantra. Again, going back to one of those videos where he's doing the Upanayanam, he very beautifully explains. He says it has got 9 mantras. Om, Bhur, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Tat, Savitur, Varenyam, Bhargo, Devasya. Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat is a prayer, Swami says. And then Swami starts with explaining what are the 3 names of Gayatri. Gayatri, who is the goddess who has the mastery of all the senses. Savitri, who is the goddess of life. That's how he says, that is how Savitri brought back life to her husband. and then Saraswati, who is the goddess of speech. So these are the three names of Gayatri. Then he asks, then he says that Gayatri Mantram Om. Of course, if you start the topic of Om, you can have a complete satsang on what Om is. But there's a very beautiful definition of Om. Swami says, Ghosha. The word Ghosha is a very significant word, because he says this is what emerged from Lord Brahma right in the beginning. The breath of Brahma is Ghosha, or the Shabda. So he says Ghosha, I am that Om, that Ghosha. Ghosha is Omkara. And Swami has revealed saying, I am Ghosha. And he also says, because Lord Brahma is on the mantra of Soham, that is the breath, and that breath is the Vedas. So he says, since I am Ghosha, I am also, the master of all the mantras. So that Om, he says, Om is omnipresent. Sound is omnipresent. And in that video, very beautifully, Swami says, Om is omnipresent. You do this is Om. You tap, that is Om. You see anywhere, any sound, kind of sound, vibration is Om. So then he goes on to explain how Om Bhur Bhuvaha Suvaha. So he says Bhur is the physical plane. It is the body. And in our traditional scriptures, it is, related to the vibration of the Mooladhara Chakra. Again, everything is symbolic. Like, how does chanting Gayatri actually make you a better person? How does it enhance you and take you closer to the Lord on the path of spirituality? Bhur. He says that is the level of the Mooladhara Chakra and the physical body. Bhuvaha is the Swadhisthana Chakra. And so he says there it's the realm of the mind, and where, emotions come in. So Bhur, Bhuvaha and Suvaha. The Suvaha is the causal aspect of, body is physical, subtle and causal aspect. And Suvaha is where he says it is governed by the sun god. So Savitur. So he says these are the three stages. Om, Bhur, Bhuva, Suvaha. So when you chant the Gayatri Mantra, the energy rises from the lowest of your chakras and it goes upwards. So, the energy that is latent within all of us, it goes up step by step when you chant Gayatri Mantra. And in that video, Swami, of course, very beautifully explains that first you have Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam. You are first glorifying the Lord. Yes. You are saying that here is the Lord who is adoration. Tat Savitur Varenyam. You are the one who is effulgent in such a beautiful form. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. He says, what is it that I am praying for? Please sharpen my intellect. Dhimahi. You give me that sense of discrimination. Diyo Yona Prachodayat is the prayer form. That is where you are offering the prayer that please sharpen my intellect. And it's a very, very interesting, combination, this mantra itself, which is of course found in the Rig Veda. It's a combination of the mother aspect on one side, where, you have to chant it with love for your mother, and gratitude and sharpening of the intellect. So it's a very interesting combination, this entire Gayatri Mantra, isn't it?
Talking of Upanayanams and of course the Sandhya Vandanam, the Gayatri Mantra chanting is an important part of it. I recall one of the discourses that Swami gave when the mass Upanayanam was done, and primarily there were Swami students who were involved, right? It was a Upanayanam where it was open to others, but mostly it was students from Swami's college. So telling them to do a Sandhya Vandanam 3 times a day actually doesn't even fit into the hostel schedule.
Right.
Right. So Swami said you will not have time because you're all in the mandir, especially during that evening Sandhya, we're all in the mandir having Swami's darshan. Morning time you have your, Suprabhatam and other things. So Swami said you might not have the time to do Sandhya Vandanam, but it is important to do. Swami said, so what? While having bath, you can chant the Gayatri Mantra. And Swami said, you sing all kinds of cinema songs while having bath. You can chant Gayatri Mantra. And again, Swami emphasized this because Gayatri Mantra is meant for the body, mind and the Atma. If you do it while having bath, it purifies all three. Swami said, similarly, when you're eating, before you eat food, you can chant Gayatri Mantra. It purifies the food and it purifies the body, mind, and the Atma, right? And I mean, Swami can't make it simpler than this for us, and more universal than
In
this.
fact, as you were mentioning, to me, the Gayatri Mantra, as Swami said, it is so esoteric. We are associating it with a Devi. I think that is just a symbolic representation, but otherwise, it is very, very universal. It is just sharpening your intellect, and that's the reason why I said anybody can chant it. It's not connected to any religion, it is not connected to any particular sect, any particular tradition, men, women, nothing. It's absolutely universal. And when you mention about Om, Swami says, we know that Om is the sound of creation. Swami said the elaboration of Om is the Gayatri Mantra. And that's the reason why Swami said, whether you chant any other mantra or not, because this is the essence of all the Vedas, at least chant the Gayatri Mantra, because this will give you the benefit of chanting all the mantras. Because Gayatri Chandasa Mata, it's the Mata of all the mantras and all the Vedas. And when you mention about this aspect of Gayatri was born out of sacrifice, I think this is what happens when you chant the Gayatri Mantra. As you chant more and more, Swami said, that spirit of surrender, that spirit of renunciation becomes more and more intense in you. In fact, I remember sometime back when I was talking to one student, I asked him, why do you chant? He's a 10th class student. And he said, brother, when I'm in pain, the Gayatri Mantra helps me. How does it help you? He said, when I'm going through some niggle in my body, as I chant the mantra, what becomes very evident to me is what is permanent and what is temporary.
Oh.
And I feel that this body is not permanent. And I see myself rising above it. And as I feel that, this lifts me from what is not permanent. And after some time, when I come back to it, I don't feel the pain again so much. My body is automatically healed. A 10th class student from Bhagwan's Sri Desai Higher Secondary School, when he mentioned that to me, I felt, this is what consciously, unconsciously, because that is a spiritual journey for every sadhaka. One thing is to have faith, one thing is to have that equanimity, and one thing is to always know what is Atma and what is Anatma, what is temporary and what is permanent. And this brother, whose experience I shared about how Mother Gayatri carried him through the bus journey, in fact, it was he who, in a vision, had seen Mother Gayatri walk into a particular spot in the Prasanthi Nilayam ashram. And on the day when Bhagawan installed the Gayatri temple, as he was returning, watching that glorious ceremony, it suddenly struck him, oh my God, this is that exact spot where Mother had told me that I will always permanently reside here. And this brother, he's into a lot of scriptural studies. And when I asked him, how has it personally helped you in your spiritual journey? He said, this mantra is slowly taking me from the Annamaya Kosha into the Manomaya Kosha, into the Pranamaya Kosha, into the Vijnanamaya Kosha, because ultimately we have to get over these sheaths which cover our understanding of who we truly are. Gayatri Mantra will open that inner eye so that we can very easily distinguish what is not our true self. And he says, slowly this is helping me make that journey from Annamaya Kosha to Anandamaya Kosha. That is what the Gayatri Mantra. In fact, when you were talking about chanting with love, I was just reminded, because because the mantra is so esoteric and there are so many meanings associated with it, materialization, radiation, vibration. If you go deeper and deeper, there are too many concepts that may not be intelligible to us. So there was one occasion when a devotee was with Bhagawan in the interview room, and Swami asked, do you know how to chant the Gayatri Mantra? And he did not know how to chant it. Swami said, no, this is how you should chant it. and he had the chance to do Padaseva to Swami. So as he was pressing Bhagwan's feet, Swami chanted the Gayatri Mantra and Swami asked him to repeat. So Swami said Om, so he repeated Om, and Bhur Bhuvaswaha, he's chanting. So as he was doing Padaseva, he started feeling that Bhagwan's body was becoming warmer. Tat Savitur Varenyam, it was getting hotter. Bhargo Devasya Dhimai, when Swami chanted, he felt Bhagwan's body had really become so hot that he could no longer touch Swami's body and he had to take off his hand. He had personally seen the effect of what the Gayatri Mantra can do, and Swami is giving him the power and the import of this mantra. And when a businessman, when Swami asked a businessman, are you chanting the Gayatri Mantra? I said, Swami, I don't understand all those esoteric meanings. Swami said, it's very simple. All it says is, O Universal Divine Mother, O Universal Supreme Intelligence, I pray to you to fill my heart with divine love. And let this supreme, unsullied love translate as noble and sacred actions through my hands. Let them come out as sweet and soft words through my mouth. Let them take my limbs to sacred places. Let all this pure, unsullied love ensure that my entire body, mind, and soul is engaged in sacred acts at all times, everywhere. That is what the Gayatri Mantra is.
Beautiful. I think what all of this reminds us of, Upanayanam, or whatever Swami does and whatever Swami speaks of, this Upanayanam ceremony represents that we should have that focus on that goal. Right? You start on a long journey. Maybe you have to drive overnight to a particular place. You start by fixing your destination on the GPS. Right? You might do a lot of things. You might go through a lot of places, cross many towns. Sometimes have to go through a plateau, maybe drive over a hill. But if you've fixed your destination in your GPS, you're sure that through all of this, you will finally reach there. The Upanayanam ceremony is perhaps something like that. When you start this journey, you're going to go through a lot of stages as a student, as a grihastha, challenges in your professional life and all of that. But if you start this entire journey by fixing your destination, the Brahman is the destination. And to reach that, my first stage is brahmachari, to be that. And everything else that Swami speaks of, right? When Swami speaks of the importance of daily prayers, when Swami speaks of the importance of pilgrimages, everything is so that you keep bringing back your focus to this. Because the mind is going to be drawn into all these directions as you go through life. You have to keep bringing back this. The Gayatri Mantra is a very beautiful tool for that, where you repeatedly bring the mind back to the focus on God. Right? So be it the Upanayanam ceremonies that Swami did, be it the marriages that Swami performed, be it anything that Swami did, right? The Paduka festival, the Shivratri that Swami celebrated, Guru Purnima, everything was only a means of constantly reminding us this life has been given for a purpose. Don't lose sight of that. 1963, one of the beautiful points Swami made, I don't know if I've really comprehended what Swami said, but Swami said, see, if there is raw gold, you cannot do anything with it. You add a little bit of copper or silver to it, then you can make jewelry with it. Right? So Swami said, all of you are Brahman, but to go through these different phases of life as a woman, as a man, as a little boy, as a mother, as a this one, is not possible in that Brahman state. So Jiva Tattva has been added to it so that it goes through all these phases. But the eventual goal is to come back to Brahma Tattva. So Swami said this Upanayanam ceremony is one in which you've been told that the whole idea is to come back to that Brahman state and hold on to Shravanam, Mananam and Nidhyasanam as the process by which you constantly keep purifying yourself, so that towards the end of this journey, you return to that state of Brahman, right? And you're being initiated into a brahmachari. That is what it is, moving towards that state of Brahman. That is what this is all about. So that is why this whole thing is so universal. Gayatri Mantra is universal. The Upanayanam ceremony is universal. What it represents is universal. I might not be sitting there as a Vatu undergoing this samskara, as it is called, but Swami performing an Upanayanam as part of the centenary celebrations, right? When so many things are happening, so many service activities are happening, so many celebrations are happening. As part of that, when Swami says, I'm performing an Upanayanam ceremony, I think it's a reminder to all of us that the goal of everything, even the centenary celebrations, is so that we can turn within and march towards that state of Brahman. So I think that is what we all have to remember as we witness this another beautiful event as part of Swami's birthday celebrations. So yet again, as Bishu said in the beginning, we grab this opportunity to reflect upon Swami's message on Upanayanam, on Gayatri, on the phase of Brahmachari, so that this ceremony that is happening is relevant to all of us, is a reminder to all of us. So we only thank Swami. We express our gratitude on behalf of all of you for Swami to repeatedly keep reminding us of these things so that we make this life purposeful. We thank you all for your very, very patient listening, and we most humbly offer this effort at Bhagwan's Lotus Feet. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.